Good morning, South Africa. This is Johan Rousseau, talking from a cold, windy, miserable Pretoria, in a time of distress, in a time where we have a country that's worried, in a world that's concerned about the coronavirus and the lockdown. We just want to share our concerns and also our vote of thanks to the South African media, which is recognizing FIRA as a leading funeral association, leading processes, leading change towards transformation and development of the funeral industry, trying to create a legislative platform that will enable government priorities to be addressed, that of the funeral industry, and most importantly, the support of the South African public. We just need to say that even though people is trying to discredit the processes, what we're trying to do is basically what government is supposed to do, and which they've been unable to do for many, many years, as a result of laws being inherited from the past, influencing factors, people with vested interests, trying to protect their own vested interests, not really thinking about government, not thinking about the industry or the public, but just looking after themselves. When we look at the article that appeared in the Daily Dispatch today, referring to the land issues, paupers, and cremations, let's just explain a little bit better and just giving the factors that made us to make these comments. Remember, South Africa is facing a crisis in terms of land issues for burials. It's been seen all over the media. NGOs has been complaining about it. The funeral industry has been complaining about it. And let's just give you the problem areas. The problem areas is everyone complains about the paupers now and their families. If they are buried or cremated, not known. But let's ask, where are these families when their loved ones are still alive? Because it seems like they only want to address these issues when they've passed away. We need to, as human beings, need to be there for our families when they're alive, not when they're dead, or go and look for them when they're dead. That's our responsibility as humans, to be there for our family and our friends, which is currently not happening. And that's the first instance. We secondly understand that there's certain challenges which made us to make these comments. One, South Africa doesn't have a DNA database. So how do we get these people? How do we find the families? Because it's not available. Secondly, we're sitting in a pandemic. We're sitting with a crisis. If we allow these people to stay at a state facility for a period of time, or at a funeral parlor for an even longer time, the possibility of diseases being spread is much higher. So we need to look for alternatives. When we place a person in a coffin, as we've said before, in the case of a pauper's burial or indigent burial, it is normally a chibot coffin, which is not properly lined, which is not up to standard, and unfortunately that body fluids goes into our underground drinking water systems. And that's a fact. That's reality. It's happening. We also said to the reporter that we need to keep in mind that there's traditional aspects that needs to be catered for, but we can't put all the traditions and customs into legislation. That's a personal relationship or a personal aspect that has to be addressed, which has not been addressed. We understand that African people, in the majority, would not go for a cremation. They will oppose that. In normal circumstances, that would be opposed. But in a crisis situation, which South Africa has got, which Africa has got, and which the world has got, we need to look at cremations. Land is getting less, And we've seen that. We need to look at alternatives. Cremations for paupers is an alternative to what we currently face, because there is land shortages. Funeral parlors is complaining there's no land available. So do you want to neglect your client, which has got a policy with you, because there's no land available? Or would you rather say, let's use the land for a pauper's burial for those that you need to bury? That's one of the aspects. That's a decision that the funeral industry needs to take. Are you more concerned about a pauper's burial? Not that we want to discredit them as human beings for not having money, but let's be realistic. Do you want a pauper to have privilege above your clients? Let's ask, why do we have so much paupers? Fingerprints is a result thereof. People not certified dead is a problem thereof. People not having the opportunity to fix these things because we don't have a regulatory framework that gives guidelines and standards. That's a problem that's been opposed by those now trying to discredit what we've said. If we stick together and we take a collective decision, these problems could be fixed. We also said to other reporters that over and above cremations, burials is an alternative, mausoleums is an alternative, so to save space, to save land. And it could be done, but we must remember that these aspects has not been addressed within legislation. These aspects has not been accommodated within the laws, because we do not have a standard indigent and pauper burial policy in the country. What we are also saying is that pauper burials and indigents need a upmarket standard funeral, not really being dumped like dogs, because somewhere, somehow, maybe, perhaps, that pauper or that indigent who hasn't got the money, or his family doesn't have the money, has a family member somewhere, and that needs to be respected. We respect the fact that people have families. We understand the fact that families could not be found. Remember, South Africa has got a lot of people coming into the country, unknown. We don't even know where they are, where they come from, where's the relatives. And if they pass away there, or anywhere in the world, we must understand that aspect is being paid by taxpayers. Me and you are paying for those costs. We need a dignified burial for paupers, alternatively a dignified cremation. And that needs to be addressed, because there is no standards. And if we look at the FIRA Facebook page, we will see a number of pauper burials that we've referred to, and the media reports, that there's no real standard in terms of paupers and indigent burials. And it's going to become worse because of the economy failing, it's declining, and more people would not have money to bury their loved ones. And that's why we urge government to provide a fund. Take the monies that is being paid for cremations and is being paid for cemeteries, put it into a fund, which is not going into a funeral or a crematorium fund. It's going into a general pot. Let's look at how the maintenance of our cemeteries. Let's look how many people are murdered and raped and becomes victims of crime in our cemeteries. We've got a family that children passed away respectively at the age of 11 and 14. A nice old family. People close to my heart. The children passed away 3 years out of each other. They don't have any children left. And they came to me and they said, Johan, could you please assist us to exhume our children so that we can cremate them and go and scatter their ashes next to the seaside where they played as children. People, this is more than just legislation. This is more than just standards. This is families being affected. Families and friends that we care for. Families that we love. And we need to address these matters. We just recently had a little girl that passed away without any family. FIRA and his members, on more funerals in Krugersdorp, take control of this matter. And we said we cannot allow this young lady to be buried as a pauper, unknown, lonely, in some place in a township, irrespective of whether it's a township or whether it's an urban cemetery, but literally being just dumped. We took control of the process within half an hour with the assistance of a lady called Judy Hubert that facilitated the process. And we intervened, and within a matter of a half an hour, we made the arrangement for her to be buried dignified, even though there was no family. A proper funeral was managed by FIRA's members. Not because we wanted to boast, but purely because of humanity. A gesture of goodwill. And that's possibly the reason why 87% of the South African public voted in favour of the funeral industry to be turned around. FIRA was a participant in the program hosted by Tim Modise on Modise K9, together with the South African Council of Churches. And that's accolades that we received without asking for that. When the media says FIRA is a leading organization, a leading funeral association in South Africa, that credit needs to go out to the people that's supporting us. Our members, our executives, the startup members of FIRA. That accolades doesn't belong to a person called Johan Rousseau. That needs to go out to all industry players, which is really sincere, which is open, which is honest, which is transparent, that serves the best interest of the funeral industry and that of government and that of the public. And that's the critical aspect. We need to find alternative solutions, which we've got. But unfortunately, we cannot share this the whole time on social media because it has economic impacts, and we want government to take hands with the industry, take hands with a leading funeral association, such as ourselves, being portrayed in the media and by the public. And that cannot be denied. Whether the people like it or whether they don't like it, we have no vested interest. We are purely doing what government is supposed to be doing, and unfortunately, it's been neglected for many, many years. There's lots of funeral associations in South Africa, but I think it's time that they follow the lead of a leading funeral association. Let's put the emotions aside, let's put the egos aside, let's put South Africa and the public first. Let's support government, even though they don't support us. We must understand that they've been misled by associations and individuals and companies just looking after their own selfish interests. This is not about associations anymore, people. This is about South Africa, the funeral industry that we serve so passionately, an industry that we love, and the public that we need to support. And we thank each and every one of you looking at this video, thanking our members, the industry in general, the media, the political parties, right across the board for supporting us, and it's been highlighted every day throughout the world, throughout South Africa, and we need to take hands. We need to take hands to build a better and more safe South Africa. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.